In this beginner tutorial, let's go over how you can pick up material from the ground. It's not quite as easy as you would expect, especially if you're beginning. It may be pretty frustrating. First, get a bucket, some kind of bucket. In this case, I'm using a tractor with a front loader attached to it and just a general bucket. Any bucket will do. You first need to know how to bring up and down the bucket. And to do that depends on whether you're on your console, whether you're on PC. I'm on console, so to bring the bucket up and down, I have to hold the left bumper for my Xbox, and then hit the joystick up and down. That would bring that. And then you also need to learn how to tip the bucket up and down. You can see that error that I'm tipping it up and down like that. On the console, I hold in left bumper and hit left and right on the joystick, and that will give me full motion of the bucket. Now, one thing to know when you're bringing the bucket down, when you bring it down all the way, notice it's bringing the front end up a little bit. That's when you know it's too much. Inside, it even shows you in the inside. There you go. See, it's bringing up the front end a little bit. You know it's down too much if it's bringing up the front end. What you need to do is bring it up just a little bit and then tip it over like you see there. Now you see one piece of grass just was gone. That means your angle is just right at this piece of terrain. Now when you come up a little bit, now you see that it's not picking up that material on the right hand side, but now it is. So there's a little bit of a dip there. I'll show you that in a little more detail in a minute, but there's a little bit of a dip there. And now if it's down too far, you need to pick up the material, but you can't steer because your bucket is bringing up your front end all the way. That's when you know it's down a little too much. But then you bring it up a little bit, just incrementally. Now you can steer, and now it's picking up. So the sweet spot is the ability to steer and pick up the material at the same time. Now you can just go off to the races if the ground is flat, and then pick up all the grass that you want. But now, let me show you another example of what you may run into when trying to pick up from the ground. So I'm in a different location now, and this is when I'm trying to pick up grass. So I'm trying to pick up grass for my own field, and that grass is backed up to another person's property that I don't own. Now notice that even though the grass is cut and it looks like you can pick it up, it won't pick it up at all. Now that's even if you get the perfect position of the bucket, it will never pick it up because it's someone else's land. However, I cut the grass and it applied the grass here, and eventually what you will see is it will tell you that you don't have access to this land. It doesn't do that immediately. That's one gotcha that I ran into, where it doesn't do it immediately. It is extremely frustrating at first because it's like, why isn't it picking up the grass? But it will not pick up the grass because you don't own the land. All right, now we're back at the original place, and now notice that I am picking up the grass, so I've got that position. I've got it tilted just a little bit forward, so it's just barely scraping the ground, and I'm able to steer back and forth just fine. Now, notice that I am skipping some. So I got some, but look, I'm skipping some. Now, it's skipping some because of the terrain is just there's barely a little dip in there. I can come back and reposition a little bit and get some of it, but that dip, see, there's a little piece there that I'm not getting because there's a dip, a little bitty dip right there, and I'll zoom in a little bit and show you in a minute. You'll see what I'm talking about. So regardless of even if I go back and forth over it, reposition the bucket, I will probably never get the thing. So let me show you exactly what I'm talking about, and I'll zoom in here a little bit and show you. So now I'm going to zoom in, and now you can see that little bit of a dip. If the grass is right in the middle, notice I dumped a little bit of it, but if the grass is right in the middle, you'll never get it because the bucket is straight. It goes right over that material. And to get that, you can maneuver the bucket, bring it over a little bit, and I'll bring it down just a little bit, and then I can just pick it up that way by maneuvering it over that or around that little ridge there, that little dip that's in the terrain. So now that I'm picking up because there's not a space underneath my bucket and underneath the material. So the terrain, even though it's minor, very minor, you're going to have a hard time sometimes picking up that material. But otherwise, picking up the material is basically just figuring out the right angle, tipping it a little bit, and just hoping and praying that you're actually on flat terrain. Because if you're not, you're going to have to bring it up and down and kind of maneuver around a little bit and just look closely. Well, see, here's another good example. there's a little, it's sloping down a little bit, and I'm not able to get that material because the bucket is flat. It's never going to get it unless I bring it down into the edge. So you run into all kinds of these little things like this. But that's kind of an overview of how you can pick up grass or any other kind of material with the bucket and figure out the combination of tip and angle of the bucket in which you can then pick it up.